guys. This is my recipe for black bean burrito filling that I have in the meal plan, and we eat this a couple of times a week, and we have for a while, and there's a lot of different variations on it. On the blog I have some different ideas for things you can pair with black beans, like sweet potatoes or mushrooms and things like that. This is the one we've been eating a lot lately. It's pretty simple. It's got onions, garlic, broccoli, half a block of tofu, and 2 cans of black beans. And this is for Derek and I to share. And we also use brown rice tortillas to put it in, or if you don't want to have the tortillas and all the extra calories that come with it, you can just have the filling as is. You can have it with a sweet potato, you can have it with a potato, so there's a lot of different things you can do with the filling. There's a lot of different options for toppings too that we're going to go over. I sometimes do salsa fresca, sometimes I do a cheese sauce that's made with nutritional yeast or something like that. Sometimes I'll just do avocado and salsa from a jar. It really just depends on how much time you have and what you have on hand. So I have a medium-sized saucepan and I've got it on medium-high, and I'm just going to add my ingredients after I put some salt in the pan. I don't cook with oil, so I always either dry saute vegetables, dry saute them with a little salt, or use a little water instead, and it works just fine. There's no need to use oil for any of these recipes, so you just sprinkle a teeny bit of salt. That keeps things from sticking to the pan, although I'm also going to have to stir it probably a little more frequently than you would if you were using oil. I'm just going to add the onions, the garlic, and the broccoli all at once. So the broccoli I've found is kind of bitter in the burritos, so sometimes I just steam it on the side, because we try to have broccoli as often as possible, so we always have broccoli with this meal, but it doesn't necessarily go wonderfully with the burritos. I prefer to do wilted spinach in the burritos. I think that tastes better. But, I mean, really, we're not about having the most delicious thing for every meal. For us, the goal is to eat something nutritious that's going to act as fuel for us and not necessarily something that's an indulgence. But, you know, sometimes if I'm feeling picky, then I'll put the broccoli on the side. So I'm going to saute this for a while until the onions get kind of browned. Leave that for a bit. And what I like to use for seasonings for this dish, it's kind of just whatever. I'm not a snob. I'll use Mrs. Dash sometimes. I have this Fiesta Lime stuff that I use. This Southwest Chipotle one is pretty good. They're both salt-free. Sometimes I like blackened Creole. That's the ingredient in the recipe I have on the blog for the black bean mushroom quesadillas, and it's surprisingly delicious with black beans and mushrooms and onions. Sometimes I'll do chili powder. Sometimes I'll make my own spice mix of cumin, turmeric, pepper, things like that. So whatever you happen to have on hand, whatever you like, can go as a seasoning for burritos. Sometimes I'll do potatoes as well. I'll bake some potatoes to go with this. This is a meal that has a lot of different possibilities. That's why it's kind of used as a base for us. Burritos are something that almost seem like a cheap food to me, so I like to have it for lunch a couple times a week because it makes me feel like I'm having something indulgent, even though it's really pretty healthy. Broccoli, black beans, and tofu. So to add the spices, what I usually do is I add a teeny bit of water to the pan. So I'm going to put a little water in it so the spices can distribute nicely. And I guess I'll use this Fiesta Lime seasoning this time. And I like to use a good amount. I don't just sprinkle it. I'll use, you know, probably something like 3 tablespoons, because I'm also going to be adding 2 cans of beans and half a block of tofu, and I want to make sure there's enough spice. So I just add that. Distribute it, let the water cook off a bit. And then to add the tofu, all I do is I take half a block, toss it in the pan, take a potato masher and mash it up. Mix everything up. Sometimes at this point I'll sprinkle in some nutritional yeast too, but I happen to have some leftover cheese sauce from omelets I made yesterday, and I'm just going to use that on top so I don't need to add nutritional yeast. So I just add that, let that cook for a minute or two while I get my black beans. So I used 2 cans of no salt added organic black beans from Whole Foods that I rinsed and drained. And now I'm just going to add that. Mix it all up. And then at this point, I cover it for a while on medium low, and let it cook while I put together my toppings and other ingredients, like my salad and things like that too for the side. Alright, so everything's been cooking for a little while. Sometimes I add salsa at this point. I made my own tomato and cilantro salsa fresca stuff to go on top, but sometimes I'll just put salsa from a jar on there too, as embarrassing as that is to admit. So this is just random generic medium tomato salsa. Sometimes green salsa is good. As much crap as possible is what I say as far as burritos are concerned. So everything's ready to go. The tortillas that we use for these are usually these brown rice tortillas, Food for Life brand, and I've discovered an easy way to warm these up because they can be kind of stiff is to just take the tortilla, put it on there, and then cover it and let it warm up for a few minutes. So I do that for our 2 tortillas. What we do for this, because we don't like to have a lot of the processed bread stuff or anything with our meals, is we started out having 2 burritos when we were in our initial bulking phase. Right now we're trying to cut back on stuff like this, the processed flour stuff. So we're just having 1 burrito and the rest of the filling goes on the side, and then eventually we're not going to have any tortillas at all. Instead we're going to have sweet potato or something like that. So that's an option for you. Another option if you are trying to gain weight would be to go ahead and have the tortillas, and not only that, but have potato in it. Like I mentioned earlier, you can cube up some potato and bake that and then put that in the filling too. So potatoes, black beans, tofu, tortillas, it's going to be a pretty calorie dense meal. It's going to fill you up and then some and help you gain weight. So that's another option there. Some of the stuff I have for toppings this time, it varies every time. Sometimes I really don't put anything on them. In this case I happen to have tomato and cilantro, so I made some salsa fresca. What's nice too sometimes to add is chopped garlic and things like that, lime, and make a real salsa. In this case it's just tomato and cilantro. Half an avocado between the 2 of us, and I happen to have this leftover nutritional yeast sauce. You can find this recipe in Isa Chandra Moskowitz's cookbook called Appetite for Reduction. It might even be on her website called The Post-Punk Kitchen. She's my favorite cookbook author. You might want to check her out. She has a ton of excellent recipes, especially in Appetite for Reduction, that are really good low-fat recipes. She's also written some for the Forks Over Knives cookbook, but we used this for an omelet filling the other day with some broccoli, and it'll be good to have on the burritos. We ordinarily don't have that sort of a thing on there, and they're excellent anyway. Another topping we like to use is Korean hot sauce, sriracha, stuff like that. Anything that makes it more delicious, considering it's, you know, black beans, tofu, and broccoli. You might as well load up on toppings to make it seem like something spectacular. So, see? Nice and floppy, perfect to use as a burrito. So we'll come back once I've got those assembled. So I'm sure most of you know how to make a burrito, but just for fun, everything's all ready to go. And at this point, I just dish out as much as I can fit in the 2 tortillas between us. Probably something like that, because I have toppings also. So add that. Add some toppings. some avocado, even a little bit of cheese sauce, just this once. Made with nutritional yeast and a bunch of other spices, so it's certainly not anything resembling a cheese sauce or even a vegan cheese sauce. But it tastes cheesy. It's a lot healthier. So a little bit of that. Some Korean hot sauce or sriracha or whatever you might have on hand, tobacco. And then to fold it, I learned this when I was a teenager at Taco Bell. Way back when I was 16. Fold up the ends like this. Fold it like this, and then roll it over. And there you have it. We have the rest on the side.